for joining us as we celebrate the life of Jean Chism Cook. You might be wondering why that we would plan this now, almost 7 years after losing her, and the answer is why not. Since her passing, our family rarely sees each other. Get-togethers I would look forward to all year don't happen. She was taken from us so suddenly, and she, we now realize, was the cornerstone of our family. Today we're going to share meaningful stories along with all the ways she has influenced our lives. Primarily her love of music, which is something that we all share. At every family get-together, after our meal, we would all gather around Grandma and the piano and sing. We also want to share that experience with you today. She may not be here, but she will always be with us, and we will never forget her.
I don't hardly know how loud I talk. Well, I don't hear. I can't hear myself. I don't know how loud, but anyway, if it gets too loud. You know, come here and I see Angela, Liz, and the grandchildren. Some of them I know, and some of them I probably don't. And you've done a wonderful job here. And I appreciate it very much. Paying tribute to Jim. I know most of you remember her very well. But there's part of her life that you never did know. And that was her early life. And I learned that pretty early. June was born June the 8th, 1930. That was some hard time days. But I was thrilled to death. I was 5 years old. And the thought of having a baby sister, that was great. But there's a downside to baby sisters. They cry like everything. And when she wasn't crying, she was sleeping. And then I couldn't make any noise. It was always be quiet. She would wake up baby sister. And I thought, well, I didn't know which was the worst, her sleeping and being quiet, or this is bad crying. But she soon got out of that. She was a good baby. And when she was about 2 years old, a little bit older, she discovered outdoors. So that's one of the first words that she learned, outdoors. We had a big yard, she played outdoors, but you had to watch her because she would disappear in a minute, she'd be gone. And we finally solved that problem up to a point. And I didn't know such a picture existed, but it's over there now of her standing behind a bit of wire, holding on to the wire. And then down a piece of new pig wire. I don't know what pig wire is, but it's real strong wire, about so high. Put it together in a circle and put her in it. That didn't work very long. She cried there worse than she did with just holding her. But we tried, and after a while it got a little bit better. But pretty soon she grew up enough to follow me everywhere I went, and we learned a lot about life. And she learned that there's some hard times in life. Things didn't always go just exactly what you wanted to go. We lived on a country road, out in the country. On the railroad tracks, I could throw a rock on the railroad tracks. And that was one of our main attractions, was watching the trains. Because there was no television, the neighborhood that wasn't built up. We didn't have any interaction much with children of our age, except Sunday morning at church. And there you had to be quiet, so we didn't have a whole lot of interaction there. But we did manage to amuse ourselves. And we had a little place there that was on the road, and there was a huge oak tree there that grew up on the county road property. And the road went right by. Nothing much ever came up down that road, occasionally a wagon, and now and then a car. So traffic wasn't any problem. Right between that tree and our chicken lot, was the bank across the road about so wide, and we played on that thing. She had a playhouse there, and it was under the shade of that big oak tree. Fine day, my dad came home and brought home an automobile tire. And one was taken off his car. He had gone over and grabbed a coat out here on the county road and cut a hole in it with the distress. It was almost 60 pounds. So he made us a tire swing. Off of that oak tree, a big limb there, and was up on that thing, and that was ideal. We could back up to that fence and push it, and we swung out over the road, and we had all kinds of amusement there for a while. One morning we went out there to swing. Crime rate there wasn't very bad, but we looked up and someone had cut that tire down and was gone, and we never saw it again. June felt like that was a very injustice to find young people that are trying to entertain themselves. And she did a little thinking. After a while, she decided she knew who put that tire down. And it was cut way up and high. I said, well, who cut the tire down? She said, some big, tall fella. And that's the nearest we ever saw that crime. Well, we managed. We got on without the tire swing. And my daddy didn't have any more tires over that. Good luck for him, I'm sure. But it wasn't too much longer than that till we found out that the Robinson County was going to widen that road. And a big old oak tree had to go. And they did. They came out and cut it. It was on their property. We had no reason to complain and didn't. We just lost a shade tree. So we didn't play much out there anymore. And then June kind of turned to, and some of you know this, that she always had a cat or two. And sometimes more. And she learned from her cats. One thing she learned, that cats are not very tolerant of putting on clothes. We had a big old cat, I don't know where it came from, a big cat. White cat with a big brown spot on the back, just one. And her very original name, she made that cat Spotty. Now, she could carry Spotty like this and his tail was dragged around. And he was taller than that. That was all right. Spotty stayed out in the yard all the time. But my mom, she didn't tolerate cats in the house at all. And one of the neighbors had given me a huge white rabbit. Their son was allergic to rabbit food. And so I got the rabbit, a great big rabbit. And he had to run to the backyard. We kept him up at night, but every morning, turn him out, he ate over, and he was happy. He was out in the backyard one morning, about 8 o'clock. Spotty used to sleep up on the wash tub, on the bench behind the house. The morning sun was good warm out there. And June and I was out there. All of a sudden, Spotty saw that white rabbit. Spotty got down, and eased up on that rabbit. June didn't know what was fixing to happen. And I wasn't sure. Right at that rabbit, Spotty made a run and jumped on that rabbit. And that rabbit turned around and kicked old Spotty in the head twice, rolled him over, and Spotty went on up the garden, stayed on for some little bit. Spotty learned a lesson. And I think June learned a lesson sometimes. I told her if Spotty had let that rabbit alone, he wouldn't have a headache. And she pretty well took that. But now, somewhere along the line, she had a unique attribute. She grew cats. If there's one stray in Robinson County, well, it came to our house, it was like a magnet. Well, this was a little scrawny yellow tomcat. She called him Little Tom. Little Tom, she packed him up, she packed him up, pulled over a couple of biscuits. Little Tom like that. And Little Tom was pretty tolerant. He would wear a shirt occasionally. He'd like to. He was a very cat, but he had a phone something. And she called him Little Tom, and one day one of the neighbor ladies was down there, and she says, June says, is Little Tom a little girl cat or a little boy cat? And June looked up and was, well, her name's Tom. Well, she had to be a tomcat. So I took care of that. Anyway, Little Tom was more tolerant, and she did dress Little Tom quite a bit. One thing he drove the line on was wearing a Little Tom all his ears. But she survived several scratches from Little Tom. And she got into dogs. And she was about 6 or 7 when the Shirley Temple dog. Everybody had a Shirley Temple dog with her. And I don't think she ever got one. But about the same time up here in Canada, there was 5 children who were on the puppy. I do remember that. And they put dolls and coloring books and paper doll books into the paper doll business. You know, after a while, she kind of grew out some of that. She started school, and she got a little school bus. And the school bus had nothing but high school students. All elementary school students was put out at Kennewick School. And they picked up their high school students, and they graduated from 8th grade in Kennewick and started at kindergarten. Then she got to be very protective of me. High school kids would pick on us, but pretty heavy, all of them. Happened every time, and every year, to everybody just about. She carried her lunch to school in a pretty sturdy lunchbox. And she put an old boy there that was about 50 years old over the head of that lunchbox. And I'm sure he needed a lot. And that guy probably had some dents in his head. I'm not sure. Anyway, soon after, even before she got into high school, I left home, was gone for about 3 years in the military. And she was very protective of me. She write me a worship Bible and tell me how to be careful, and how to eat right, how to sleep good. We didn't do any of that, just look where I was. But soon after, when I got home, she was grown. We still had cats. And I don't know what happened to Little Tom. I think he was embarrassed to get out of the profession, very embarrassed. So anyway, it was a good life. She married young and a good family, and all of us have done real well. You know, I appreciate it very much, as I said before, the privilege of being here and you folks coming and doing this. I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, I saw a documentary on television, and I don't remember who was interviewing this reporter, but he was interviewing General Schwarzkopf. You remember him? He was I guess, maybe the commander of all the troops that went into Iraq and ran the Iraqis out of very soft-spoken. I felt like down the two I saw him on TV. But he had retired. And this reporter asked him right at the end of this interview, said, General says, what would you like to see on your tombstone? General Schwarzkopf said, thought a minute, and he said, well, I'd like to see these words. He loved his men. And the reporter says, and his men, I know the general loved you and cared for you too. And I think he did. Here again, You've done a great job. Brought back a lot of memories to me, and well, I just give yourself a big hand.
My name is Liz Amick, and I am the youngest daughter of Gene Chism Cook. And, you know, we're supposed to think of some stories to tell and to talk about your mother. It's like, well, where do you begin? And I'll start by saying that I'm a professional blubberer, so I have my tissue here. And just forgive me if my voice cracks or something, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the memories I have of Mom when I was a child. And from as young of an age as I can remember, and maybe this is true of any son or daughter, but I thought I had the most beautiful, the most beautiful mother in the world. And I can remember going to church at Greenbar Baptist. She always sang in the choir. And I always thought she sang like an angel. And I can remember sitting next to her during the service, and to keep me quiet, I'd lay my head in her lap and she'd tickle my back. And she always had beads, you know, we'd lay there and play with those beads. And these are just things that I haven't thought about in a long time. But also, I wanted you guys to know that how talented my mom was. And I can remember when I started school, Mother sewed every item of clothing I wore to school, and Angela. And of course, being unappreciative children, we would have loved to have a store-bought dress, you know. And of course, looking back now, when I think about all the love that went into those clothes and the quality, you know, there's no contest. I'd rather have something homemade. I'm very proud of my mother because, and I can't remember how old I was when Mother went to work. When I first started school, she was a stay-at-home mom. But she went to work for Hardee's in Nashville, the department store. And she started out as a sales clerk. So I'm sure it was in the latter 50s, early 60s. But she worked her way up to a buyer position and became a professional businesswoman during what we call the Mad Men era. You know, it was a man's world. And you know, that's another thing I've always been very proud of her. Because if she set her sights on doing something, she did. I've been told I look like my mom. And I consider that a true compliment. Sometimes when I look in the mirror, I think, well, I'm like a fat clone of my mom. You know, but I'm happy. I had someone tell me that as long as I live, no one could forget Mother because I remind them of Mother. Well, I'll never be as beautiful as my mom was, but I'm honored for that to be my role, to keep her memory alive. And the last thing I wanted to mention, there's so many things that I want to say, and you can't remember them all, and your nose runs, and you cry. But I'm sure some of y'all remember Greenbrier used to have a minstrel a lot like Springfield minstrel. Do they still have the Springfield minstrel? I don't even know, do they? Well, Mom and Dad always had a big role in that. I can't even remember now what it sponsored, what they were raising money for. I was young. But of course, Mother always sang in the chorus. And she always sang a song called Summertime. Now, I remember her telling me one time when she was young that she had a dream of being an opera singer. And had she followed that dream, I have no doubt she would have been an excellent opera singer. And so I've chosen to sing this in her memory. When she'd sing it, she seems like she'd always just stand up from the chorus and they'd put a spot on her. And she would start singing in an unimaginable key. And I can remember being in the audience and just thinking, that's my mama. I'd be totally amazed. So needless to say, I've lowered the key. Because maybe I could have been an opera singer, but I'm definitely not where she was. But I'd like to sing Summertime for you. Technical. Keyboard's not.
Turn it off and turn it back on.
That's always the solution. Turn it off, turn it back on.
Where's the off? There's a panic button. I can hit that.
Okay, it gives me time to pull myself together a little bit.
Hello, I'm Angela. If you don't know, I don't say the oldest, I say the firstborn. Mom married when she was only 16 years old, and she always said the only thing she knew how to cook was scalloped oysters and potted meat sandwiches. If you've seen the little card that we have open for you, if you don't have one, pick it up, and you'll notice down the back the recipe for her scalloped oysters is on there. I'm sorry, we don't have one for the potted meat sandwiches. When we were growing up, there was a lot of fun, a lot of laughter at our house. And Mom was a lot of fun, and she had this sense of humor. It showed up sometimes even when you didn't expect it to. For example, she had hip surgery several years ago, and we were all there, Liz, Andy, our spouses, and Daddy, and we were in the waiting area, and when they finished with the surgery, the doctor came and told us that, everything was fine. She would go back to her room, and we could all go back there and wait for her. So we did. And in a little bit, they brought her in, they transferred her off of the gurney onto the bed, started the IV, whatever, and got her all settled in. And the nurse then came and said, she's going to sleep for a while, so why don't all of you go get you something to eat? It'd be a good time. But the nurse left, and we said, yeah, that's a good idea. And somebody probably said, Daddy, why don't you and all the rest of them go, and I'll stay here with Mom. And so Daddy, I'm sure, then probably said, no, I'll stay here, and the rest of you go on. And maybe Andy, one of us. This kept on for 4 or 5 minutes, no, you go, I'll stay. And finally, we all heard this, hey. And we looked over, and it was Mom. She never opened her eyes. She just said, why don't all of you go, and I'll stay. So she could always crack us up. Some of you may remember, 10 or 15 years ago, my brother and my sister-in-law and myself sang a cappella gospel music. The name of our group was Kindred Spirit. We haven't done a lot of singing in the last few years, but Mom was always our biggest fan. And so now I'd like to get Liz and Sean, and I think even Jeremy's going to help us out a little bit on this.
On Jordan's stormy banks I stand and cast a wishful eye to Canaan's fair and happy land where my possessions lie. I am bound for the promised land, I am bound for the promised land. Oh, who will come and go with me? I am bound for the promised land, promised land. Shall we gather at the river where bright angel feet have trod, with its crystal tide forever flowing from the throne of God? Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful, beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows from the throne of God, throne of God. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, riverside. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my
Jeremy says. My name's Jeremy. Well, I guess I'm the oldest. Oh no, the firstborn grandson, firstborn grandchild. And I'll be brief, but I do want to talk a little bit about the influence that my grandmother was on me and everything that happened to me from this point on, how I ventured out from Springfield to Greenbrier. I grew up listening to, well, at school, it was one thing. It was more, Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton, which I love. But at Grandma's house, in the magical music chest, I called it, the piano bench that had all the music in it, that's where I heard, for the first time, Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, Gershwin, Kern, all these names, and all this beautiful, beautiful music that just mesmerized me. And I'll never forget, I spent a lot of time in Grandma's house eating and singing, which is something you do a lot in the South, I think. But she would open the magical piano bench, and out would pop one of these huge books that had everything in it from Can't Take That Away From Me to White Christmas, Irving Berlin too. All this music. And the first time I ever heard any of these songs was my grandmother's fingers playing the piano and her voice singing these things to me. That's one. The other thing is that I always credit her for sitting me down in front of a Gene Kelly marathon, probably to get me to leave her alone, but sitting me down in front of the television on one of these classic movie marathon days while she was in the kitchen, probably making me something to eat. The other reason I had to stay in the living room is because the dog didn't like me very much. The dog, Toady, would sit on the couch and sort of guard that area, so I had to stay in the living room and watch TV, which was fine. But she set me down in front of this world that was completely new to me. I didn't know any of these things. This was before I started taking dance. This was the first exposure I had to any of this stuff was through my grandmother, June. And once I thought I invented tap dancing in the yard when I was about 5, and she sat me down in front of these movies, and I thought, I got to get those shoes. Where did he get those shoes? Those wonderful, noisy shoes. And she would tell stories to sort of piggyback on Mom's story about New York, right? There's something called Broadway. What was that? I thought it was like Camelot or something. It was like an imaginary, I didn't know what it was. And she would come back from buying and selling from Harvey's, come back from Manhattan with bags and just stacks of programs from Ethel Merman in Gypsy, Carol Channing opening in Hello Dolly. You name it, she saw it in New York. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I don't know where those things are now. I'd probably be digging through a dumpster right now if I knew, but they're probably in a box somewhere. But she opened up the world of musical theater, basically, in music, and a real appreciation of that standard type of music. And I'm never in a show, I tap dance now, and I live in New York, and I knock on wood, I'm a fairly constantly working actor. We knock again. And I just did White Christmas, actually. Roger Bunch was up in New York and saw me do a show called White Christmas, and I cannot get through one show without thinking of my grandmother. There's some melody, there's some memory, there's some lyric, something always reminds me of the piano bench full of music that my grandmother had. And she not only influenced me, but everybody else. My mom, my aunts, my little sister, everybody around her. It was a big musical time at the house. So we would eat as much as we possibly could, and then when we couldn't eat anymore, we would sing. So I thought I'd sing today. And this is a song from the first time this is a movie musical. The first time I ever saw this movie musical was sitting on the floor in front of Grandma's television. And I bet you'll recognize it. Mom's going to play auto harp, and my brilliantly talented cousin Lan is going to accompany me. When all the world is a hopeless jumble, and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found. Leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain. There's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue. Really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow wide, and oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Okay, I think it's me again. While I happen to be a daughter mark. Speaking of kindred spirit, there's a fourth member who is missing today, which is our brother, Andy, who passed away several years ago, actually before Mom did. And that's the reason probably the kindred spirit disbanded. Plus, it's been very hard to sing those songs. But I know Mother wanted us to continue, either solo or, with another group together. She always wanted us to continue singing and not waste our gift. And in the past few years, I've been attending a church very, very small little church. There's probably about 20 members. And through the process of elimination, I became the music director. And Mother, this is something I never really knew until recently about Mother, how much she liked spiritual music, like old Negro spirituals, and that type of gospel music. Because that's kind of always been my passion, my style. And for that reason, I've chosen to sing a song, if I can use it, called Up to the Mountain. And I think in my heart, I feel that I'm where, first of all, where God has led me to be. And I think Mother would be very proud of that. And so I dedicate this song to her. I went up to the mountain, 'cause you asked me to, up over the clouds, to where the sky was blue. I could see all around me, everywhere. I could see all around me.
Okay, this is too loud. Okay. I'll go ahead and apologize for something in advance. There's a couple things I want to say, but I pace a whole lot when I talk, so I may be all over. If anybody gets sick, the back right there. There's a lot of memories I could stand here and share for a little while that I'll of course would like to share, but I want to share one memory and then I want to talk about something that I think is very important. One of the memories that I have of Grandmama June is kind of a sweet and a sour memory. When I was, I believe in 4th and 5th grade, my brothers had already started marching band. My parents worked very late. And so usually when I would get out of school, I'd be staying at my grandmama's house. And I remember every day she would serve me the same thing after school, which was always potato chips, Lay's potato chips and orange juice, every single day. And I loved it. I mean, it was everything I enjoyed. One of the things I remember about this is that for an entire year, all of my books were stained with grease all over the place. But of course, I never blamed my grandma for it. The sour part of this, of what I remember, is that she knew I was really into piano at that age. I was probably 10 or 11. And this was shortly before I quit for a few years to try some other instruments. But at the time, I was so extremely shy. I had major difficulty being able to perform in front of people. I didn't think I would ever really care to perform, but I never wanted to stop learning because I loved music so much. So she would ask a lot for me to play there some, and I very rarely would, and I regret that. It's a lot of regret I'd carried around for a long time because I wish I had had the chance to learn the things she was trying to teach me. It wasn't about music, it was about the love for music. The positive of that is a couple years later, well, actually a lot of years later, I started college, and I was a freshman, either a freshman or a sophomore, doesn't matter. And I'd gone back because I picked up learning piano again. I quit again for a few years. I was just kind of it was an on and off thing for me. But I went back to piano, and the first book I picked up to start learning out of was Rachmaninoff. And he was one of Grandmama June's favorite composers, as was he was one of the favorite composers of my dad, and I think a lot of you know. And I learned a couple pieces, but I went back and I played one for her. And I think this was about half a year before she passed away. And I got the chance to actually play it for her. And you know, it was kind of at that point that I was finally starting to realize the gifts that I've been given. It's not the talent to play the music, an instrument or anything like that. It's the appreciation that I have for music. And I know where I get that. It's entirely from my family. On my dad's side of the family, you all know that June kind of brought music into the family. On my mom's side, my grandpa Reg brought music into our family. And so I've learned now, almost too late, how important it is, the gifts that our family has. And it's a very special gift because, I mean, as you can tell, we all have a love for music. And I just want to say that I think it's the coolest thing in the world that we can celebrate it this way, that we can remember someone with this, because everybody can be involved in some way. We have so many musicians in our family, and you know, I'm not a professional musician. I never took the leap that Jeremy did, and if I did, I'd have a big bruise on my face because I would have gone straight down. However, I've always appreciated music, and I always loved growing up in a family that embraced music so much. And I think that's the greatest gift that she gave to the family. She gave so many things. She's a very generous woman, especially when it comes to potato chips and orange juice. On that note, I want to go ahead and talk for just a moment about the piece I'm going to play today. There's not a whole lot I know about it. I know it was written by Andy, it was written by Dad, and I'm not exactly sure when or why. But this is my goal in playing this is the first thing. I haven't been able to play this until recently I haven't been able to play this since I played it at his funeral. And I remember when I learned it back then, I was 19, and it was really intimidating to learn. Not because it's the most difficult piece on earth, but because of the connection that I have, and I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to do something that sounded bad. I didn't want to misrepresent it. And it's tough to play for emotional reasons, but also because there's things that he did not put in there, like dynamics, which is how loud or how soft we wanted it to be, or tempo, which is how fast or how slow we wanted it to be. And at first, like I was telling you, that was kind of intimidating for me. I wasn't 100% sure what his vision was in writing. And the coolest thing for me about it is that now it's become something I share with him. Because now I know how I think it should sound. I know what the volume was supposed to be. I know how slow or how fast it was supposed to be. And because of that, I have a really special connection as a result. And it is a shame that I never even knew this piece existed until he passed away. But it's a wonderful, wonderful blessing, a wonderful thing that I'll forever have something that he can speak to me through. And that it's meant a lot to me. So I'm going to shut up and go play it.
my grandmother and my granddad tried to come to everything I ever did. My grandmother always knew all the words, probably better than I did. I did a show when I was still in college, and I sang this song in it, and it was one of, I think, her words, one of her favorite things that I had sung on stage. So I sang it at her funeral, and I'd like to sing it again today. Feeling small when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm by your side. Oh, when times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. Oh, when darkness comes and the pain is all
I'm Hillary Benton Dennis, and I'm the only granddaughter. So therefore the favorite. But not only just because of it. When I was trying to figure out a good story to tell about Grandma, I couldn't think of anyone in particular. All I could think about were all the things that she did for me, did with me, or taught me to do. Even things I didn't realize she had taught me to do. Living next door for about 8 years or so, I spent a lot of time with Grandma. Catching the bus, getting home from school, sick days. When I would get home from school, she would spoil me by fixing me whatever I wanted to eat, which was usually homemade macaroni and cheese. And then I would go home and eat dinner after that. Maybe not such a good idea, but I was chubby with love. I pretty much spent my summers with her, so she taught me lots of things to pass the time. How to cross stitch and sew, and simply by watching her, I learned how to cut patterns, thread a bobbin, hem a pair of pants, you know it. But mostly I just made pillows for the cats. We played a lot of rummy. Grandma was the only person I ever wanted to play rummy with, because we both agreed that we didn't like to play three of a kind. It made our games last a lot longer. So we really just ran out of cards. No one ever got the bonus. I would catch the bus down there, and she always let me run around and goof off while she stood at the door and watched. But I do remember quite a lot of things with I Spy, which she also taught me how to play. It's not until now that I realize how truly selfless my grandmother was. I really don't remember Grandma ever getting in the pool with us kids. I don't really blame her, but she was always willing to watch us. But I do remember many a time seeing her out there in the pool scrubbing down the sides. All the things she did for us, so many went unnoticed. Grandmama always had dinner ready for Granddaddy when he got off work. She would also always fix his plate, and I would always ask her why she did that. He could fix his own plate, oh my gosh. And she would just laugh and said she did it because she loved him, and I would understand one day. And I do. I remember her love of birds. She'd get so excited when she saw the more unique ones. And she always had her bird book close at hand on the rare occasion that she didn't recognize one. I realized just recently that I'm actually familiar with many of the local birds simply from hearing her mom talk about them. I always loved to draw as a child. Just about everything I drew had its time on the fridge, along with all my cousins' recent artwork. She was so proud of everything we did, and she kept them all. We even have a scrapbook now that has drawings that my mom and Aunt Angela made as kids. As I got older, I would have some amazing conversations with her. I would usually ask Granddaddy what was going on in the city since he was the county commissioner, and there was always something. We'd talk and debate, and then Granddaddy wouldn't hear correctly, and Grandma would always go, "No, Daddy!" I can hear it now. It was so funny, but we had some great talks. When I moved to New York, Grandma was so proud and excited. I think she saw a lot of herself in me. We usually spoke about once a week. She was always curious about what we'd done, what we'd seen, what Broadway shows we'd been to. She was so proud, and I really cherished those conversations. Even with all that distance between us, we remained close. As I mentioned before, we would all gather around Grandma at the piano at every family get together to sing. Well, I have a confession. I never sang. Everything in me wanted to, but I was just too shy and afraid. One day, I was maybe 9 or 10, I was looking through Grandmama's sheet music in the piano bench that Jeremy talked about, and came across a song that I had heard before and I liked, Yesterday by the Beatles. I remember excitedly practicing in my bedroom and eventually, I skipped it. At that time, you can put your hands on the lyrics to any song any other way than by having sheet music. So I asked to borrow it, and really don't even think I ever told Mom about it. And I remember excitedly practicing in my bedroom and eventually returning it to Grandmama's piano bench without anyone ever hearing it. Hearing me sing it. Well, I'd like to sing that song for you today. I feel there is no better time to do something that I've always wanted to do than for Grandmama. And essentially, I've been practicing for this song for about 20 years now. I've been doing it. I'm being accompanied by my wonderful cousin Nick in the car.
All my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why she had to go, I don't know, she wouldn't say. I said something wrong, now I long for yesterday. An easy game to play. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Why she had to go, I don't know, she wouldn't say. I said something wrong, now I long for yesterday. Yesterday, love was such an easy game to play. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
So, we would like to invite anyone here, if they have a memory, an anecdote, a funny story, if you would like to say anything, there's a microphone here. Anyone. If not, we have a backup plan. There is a lovely box right here that feel free to fill out a card or something. Any story, any memory that you might have of June Chism Cook. We would really cherish it. If you don't want to get up and say it now, we would love to have it. Just take a moment. Take a moment to look at some of the fantastic. I couldn't do any of that. If I tried to make a quilt, we'd be here till next year. But so one of the things I didn't learn from grandmother was sewing. But some of her artwork, some pictures of her. But we would really, really love any memories you might have. Just fill something out and put it right in the box. And thank you so much for coming. And Nick's going to play us out. Cool. I'll meet you at the table. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you.